This is Frankie Lynch, Saturn Girl. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel. It really helps with the algorithm, and I'm trying to make this a thing. We did a wonderful live stream last night on Jupiter entering Taurus. It's a real momentous thing because Jupiter spends a whole year in a sign and has about a 12-year cycle. So when he changes signs, it is a momentous occasion for all of us. It represents sort of a new phase, a new cycle. And we'll see an emphasis on an area of our lives, depending on the house that he enters in our charts. So let's take a look at this, shall we? If you want to know more about the symbolism or the archetypes behind this, you can go ahead and watch my video last night, which was all about Jupiter entering Taurus. Right now, though, we're doing a brief exposition on horoscopes for each of the rising signs. So we'll get right into it, but just briefly for the sake of all you folks out there, to recap. You know how shows and series and stuff like that, they'll do recaps previously on whatever, previously on Saturn Girl. Excuse me. We talked about Jupiter, abundance, prosperity, luck, priesthoods, philosophers, wise people, sages, all that sort of stuff, right? Whereas Taurus is a Venus-ruled sign. And we know what Venus has to do with beauty and pleasure, aesthetic, artistic expression, music. Now, Taurus is the feminine earth home of Venus. And Taurus also has to do with abundance. So some of the themes that we might see with Jupiter in a Venus-ruled sign could be expression of truth through beauty of some kind. It could be art or artistic expression or music or whatever. Desiring material gain. Of course, Jupiter, is a bit gaudy. And Taurus is material things. It's an earth sign. Nice things. Good luck, of course. Self-indulgence and perhaps avoiding work. Okay. But let's take a look here at your fun horoscopes for each of the rising signs. So we'll start with Aries rising, shall we? And we already have him up right here. So for Aries rising, let me get my cursor so I can point at things. So you see here for Aries rising, Jupiter will be entering the second house. So the second house, it's money, it's possessions, it's our livelihoods, how we make money. It's even our food, our sustenance, our taste or aesthetic, right? So for Aries rising, Jupiter left the first house of self, right? To reap the harvest in the second house of self-effort. And it's like hard work paying off. Jupiter rules the 9th and 12th houses for our dear Aries friends, which could mean a possibility of luck with money through legal affairs of some kind, or perhaps university or higher education, which includes professors, TAs. The 9th house is also foreign things and foreign lands. So you could see things like foreign investment, although I doubt anyone watching has all that much foreign investment. But it could be money somehow or gains that come through foreign sources somehow. Whatever that looks like to you. But it's also the possibility of saving or sheltering finances, because that's the 12th house, right? The 12th house, it could be hiding money, which is sort of like sheltering. So you don't have to report the income, which I do not condone, by the way. Although, plenty of corporations do that stuff. So anyway, let's move on to Taurus rising, shall we? That's going to be, let's move forward in time here. So that will be the first house for our dear Taurus rising friends. So the first house is you, right? Yourself, your well-being. We think of the sixth house as our health, but the first house is our mind, body, and spirit. It's all of us. So it does encompass our physical health to a certain extent, but also our sense of self, right? That psychological presence. You see? So, excuse me, Jupiter has left the 12th house of seclusion, to enter the first house, which anecdotally can be associated with gaining weight, but it's more than that. It has to do with confidence, oftentimes, and great-heartedness or inclusion. So it can also be misplaced confidence and arrogance, but, we'll leave that to you to figure out which category you're falling under, dear Taurus rising. So Jupiter will rule the 8th house and 11th houses in your chart, right? We're doing this by rising sign. So, Jupiter rules what two signs? Sagittarius and Pisces. So we're looking at which whole sign house Jupiter rules in your chart. House says, right? Sagittarius and Pisces. So anyway, we'll look for those house significations being imported into whatever house Jupiter is entering for you. For example, here, I know that sounds complicated, but in this example, Jupiter is entering the first house, and Jupiter rules the 8th, Sagittarius, and 11th, Pisces houses, right? So those houses, we'll see their signification sort of imported in, right, to the first house. So Jupiter rules the 8th and 11th houses, which can mean an increased confidence through facing your fears, 8th house, right? And support from friends who want to see you succeed, 11th house. It's also having a vision. Right? But it's also having a vision of who you want to be, right? And that's another 11th house thing, because the 11th house is also, right, it's our optimism. The 11th house is also, hopes and wishes. Again, personal development goals. So now let's move on to Gemini rising. Gemini. So Jupiter's going to go into the 12th house for you. Gemini. Sorry, I'm a Gemini, so, But this is Gemini rising. So we're talking about the rising sign here, because Jupiter is entering the 12th house. The 12th house is self-undoing, right? We think of addiction, mental illness, exile, seclusion, right? Non-action. Non-action is also in the 8th house. So, excuse me. So, mental illness, exile, seclusion, as I said. It left the 11th house of optimism, Jupiter did, and the people who support you, to enter the house of isolation. Now, some people can experience a loss in weight because, the 12th house is associated with Saturn. But it could also be self-imposed isolation or seclusion for healing purposes. We often have to process big changes that we've gone through. And in this case, Jupiter rules the 7th house and the 10th house. So both of those are angular houses, which means they're very close to, a pivot in the chart, whether it's the first, it's either the 1st, 10th, 7th, or 4th houses. These are the angular houses. But we're not doing a lesson here on all that sort of stuff. Suffice it to say, these are the most powerful houses. So, being that the 12th house is represented here with Jupiter entering it, you may not want to have romantic dealings for a while, right? 7th house stuff. You might go into voluntary celibacy or just wanting to be alone to assimilate, your new understanding or mode of being. You may just need to slow down at work, to do less, take some time off, or maybe you need to go remote at your job, But But oftentimes we need to slow down. We're doing too much. Well, let's move on to Cancer rising. Cancer. So Cancer rising. So Jupiter's entering the 11th house for you, dear Cancer rising. And as we said a little bit ago, the 11th house is hopes, dreams, wishes, benefactors, patrons, friends, fans. It's the people who help us succeed, or people who help us pursue our dreams and our goals and our wishes and all that sort of stuff. The 10th house is where we do things. The 11th house is where we aspire, right? Our aspirations. So Jupiter left the 10th house of honors and life direction to then solicit the help of friends and people who want to see us succeed. So in this case, Jupiter rules your 9th and 6th houses. That could mean like-minded people, get you exposure or opportunities, right? Your 11th house people with the 6th house, or perhaps they hook you up with friends who can help, right? Because it's the 6th house here too, you might see drama or beef with someone who can win you, with someone, right? And that drama or beef might win you allies, like they pick sides. Like, well, I'm on her side. Perhaps your employees rally behind you in some way and support your goals. If you're a manager type, So these are just a couple brief examples. But definitely, I would see getting, opportunities from like-minded people, perhaps people associated with your church or your school, your university, or a political group, something to do with your beliefs. Now let's look at Leo rising, please. Please, 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 please. We're moving right along. So Jupiter's entering your 10th house, my dear Leo. The 10th house is action. That's what we're known for, our life direction, recognition, career, right? Jupiter left the 9th house of religion and philosophy for the house of recognition, where we put our worldview or our beliefs into practice, right? Be the change you want to see in the world, as I think Gandhi said that. So in this case, Jupiter rules your 5th and 8th houses. That means you could see, good luck, right? Having to do with children, performance, arts, gambling, business risks could bring success or good press, right? In some way. Or 8th house stuff, right? It could be returns on investments, handling budgets, a criminal enterprise, or hidden money in some way. But let's move on, shall we, to Virgo rising and the 9th house. So the 9th house, as you may know, is religion, philosophy, higher education, astrology, the occult, foreign dealings, right? Arcane subjects, the esoteric. Well, Jupiter left the 8th house of debt and taxes, hopefully cleaning up your monetary situation to allow you to focus on the bigger questions in life. Your worldview or religion changes. Jupiter's also the teacher, so sometimes we meet people who offer us new perspectives. And in your chart, Jupiter rules the 4th and 7th houses. Those are also angular houses, meaning they're quite powerful. So a family tradition could influence your beliefs. Or perhaps someone from your family or family heritage, right? You could become more drawn to your family heritage, which influences your worldview. Or perhaps a spouse or influence could influence your beliefs as well, right? That includes political or religious or spiritual, philosophical. But let's shall we, to Libra. Libra rising. Libra. So that means Jupiter's moving into your 8th house, which is other people's money, taxes, debt, investments, losses, fear, and illegal activities. Um, we also see resources, other people's resources, things like that. ROI. You see, Jupiter left the seventh house of partners, or the eighth house of sharing, which, as I said, can often signal commingling our money, right? Or our resources. It could be returns on investments and inheritances. Jupiter rules the third and sixth houses here, which could mean just a few meanings. Investments in education, right? Paying off or getting assistance with student loans. Local investments or business dealing. We could be using our money for sixth house type things like elective surgeries or medical issues. Or it could be reinvesting in our employees, if that's a thing, if we do a business or our management types. Excuse me. But let's move on to the next phase. So Scorpio rising, that'll be Jupiter entering your seventh house of partnerships. Legal or sports opponents, oftentimes contractual agreements, which is why it becomes business partners too. And it also includes the end of the day and leisure activities sometimes, stuff like that. Now, in this case, Jupiter's left the sixth house of enemies to enter, and also legal and sports opponents and all that fun stuff. Broken hearts. The sixth house of enemies and broken hearts. With renewed energy to enter the seventh house of relationships. And Jupiter rules your second and fifth houses here. So it could be new business or financial connections, right? Partnerships. But it could also be new romantic relationships or meeting someone who wants children or who may already have children. But let's move on to my Sagittarius friends. So for Snag rising, Jupiter is entering the sixth house of injuries, illnesses, enemies, health, employees, and pets. It's leaving the fifth house of fun for the sixth house of responsibility. So we need to learn how to handle these things after learning to have fun again. So in this case, Jupiter rules the first and fourth houses. Angular houses, once again, very powerful. We could be addressing health issues or other responsibilities that we've been avoiding here. Cleaning and organizing, all that sort of thing. Diagnosing hereditary conditions sometimes here. Renovating or updating our living spaces, making repairs, stuff like that. Well, Capricorn rising. So for our Capricorn rising friends, Jupiter's entering the fifth house, which is children, sex, fun, pleasure, good fortune, games, sports, gambling. Sometimes we include small business ventures there, also the second, but we say the fifth because it's kind of a gamble, isn't it? And hopefully it can be fun. So it left the fourth house. He left the fourth house of home and family for the fifth of games and fun. So it's time to get out and get down. Get down, get down, get down, get down. So Jupiter rules the 12th and 3rd houses here, which they could indicate because it's the 12th house of seclusion, right? So we could see having fun by yourself, finding pleasure alone, long walks in the woods or the park, enjoying the lake or the ocean, getting together with extended family, 3rd house, neighbors, the local community, finding enjoyment around town, going to sporting events, concerts, performances of all kinds, art exhibitions, plays. You see? Well, let's move on to Aquarius rising. This is me. So Jupiter's entering the 4th house, which is the home, the father, the parents, and the grandparents, homeland, heritage, genealogy, history, generational wealth, hidden valuables, land, and real estate. Well, he left the third house of community and communication for the fourth house to bring luck and resolution to situations that could be dealing with your home or parents, right? Or your living situation in general. Now, in this case, Jupiter rules the 11th and 2nd houses. So, friends and money. So, you could be finding a new place or home through friends or connections, right? Or you could find a new home base. And, meaning perhaps like a group of people who sort of feel like home, or like-minded people who share your heritage or your values, your ideals. Yeah. It could be setting up a new family business, right? Second house, home business, home office. It could be selling a home, profit from land or generational wealth or hand-me-downs, right? Family heirlooms. It could be underground things, precious metals, minerals, mines, oil, that sort of thing. Well, let's move on to our final friend here, Pisces rising. So for our dear Pisces rising friends, Jupiter's entering the third house here. And the third house is community, environment, locals, short trips, can also be friends, commutes, errands, extended family like aunts and uncles and cousins and that sort of thing. It's siblings, our education, exams and tests, speaking and writing, communication. So Jupiter left the second house of your stuff to enter the third house of local stuff and communication. So I know when Jupiter was in my third house, I was creating lots of content. So now, Jupiter rules your 1st and 10th houses here, which are also angular and quite powerful. So this could be getting involved in local issues or your community at large. Maybe you're participating in local events like, farmers markets or fairs, or I don't know, becoming a fixture in your community somehow, right? This is a year-long transit. So, that could include participating in or joining your HOA or a local organization. Again, like I said, producing content that makes you visible in some way. That's both the 1st and 10th house. So, well, these were very short. This was only supposed to be a brief exposition or sort of recap of what we discussed last night. And once again, please like the video, right? Subscribe to the channel. I do wonderful readings. You can email me to schedule a reading at frankielynch777@gmail.com. All my information is below in the description. And please, please, please consider giving to my Patreon. We're going to start doing wonderful benefits for our premium subscribers, including monthly horoscopes for your rising sign, including all the big transits. So hopefully you can plan your life a bit better, or at least anticipate some big events that might be coming up for you. So once again, I love you so much and thank you for your support. And please have a wonderful whatever you're having. Transmission.